Mechanisms are laid out. They are very clear laid out mechanisms and processes and procedures, and the same is put in law so that it is in black and white. You find that the Jubilee administration, which was the first government to come up with the affordable housing, it was there in the Jubilee administration, but it did not bear much fruit, and this is basically because there were no measures that were put in place. There were no clear structure to follow. There was no clear guidelines on how it was to be implemented. But the difference now with our president currently, we are seeing he's engaging all the stakeholders, including the counties, who are the people who are in charge of the land. He's also involving the ministries. Ministries of infrastructure were involved in to come up with the infrastructure. He's involving the banks, which are in charge of giving out the credit to the people. So everybody, every stakeholder is being involved, and he's also talking about the private-public partnership, which means also the private people, that is people who are doing welding and all those things will be involved, because it is not a small thing. It is something that needs each and every person to be involved. It is not something that it's a big agenda, being one of the four pillars, one of the big four agendas pillars: agricultural, housing, healthcare, the other one of industrialization, and basically production of production. All those sectors, they have to be very well laid out. They have to be well laid out procedures and processes, so that we do not do guesswork. And currently, what we have been doing previously, there was no clear guidelines. Okay. So if these clear guidelines are laid out and people follow, for sure we are going to achieve. And we as Mizizi Africa Homes Limited, this is something that we have tried in our private capacity, and we have seen that it is something that is commendable, affordable housing, because it is not only creating jobs, but it is also giving revenue to the counties. It is creating jobs for the youth, and the youth are able to pay taxes like the government is talking. So we need to have a very clear communication. We understand, we communicate clearly, we come up with the guidelines, with the policies, procedures, so that at the end of the day we do not have a goal that is set out, but there is no clear mechanism to get to the goal. Yeah. And
well answered, as an industry expert, this question that people keep asking. We've talked about agriculture, which is very important. It's very important that we become a food secure country. But then there's the issue that people have been talking about, building or constructing houses in land that is deemed to be fertile. How do we strike the balance now to ensure that, yes, we have these affordable houses dream achieved, but also we don't end up as a starving nation?
Yeah, thank you very much. You'll notice that there have been that land fragmentation, and the president has come out very clearly that it is not something that is sustainable, because if we subdivide our land and we just construct haphazardly without proper planning, for sure something is going to also be affected, and that is agriculture, which is, for one, the backbone of our economy is agriculture. And if you look at agriculture, it used to be one of the biggest sources of income for our country. It is actually, even today, it is the biggest source of our income. So agriculture is something that we also need to look at it very keenly. So it is very easy. The county is mandated to come up with the zoning, and zoning basically is in planning. When there is planning and we are planning, we say this land has been set aside, it is purely for agricultural, and now we have devolved functions, and housing is a devolved function. So what we need to do is to support the counties. When they are doing the zoning, we have proper zoning whereby this land, even in law, can be used to do development. But this land, even according to law, cannot be done farming. Can only be done farming, and that is something that was even there back in the days, you find that when land was being subdivided, people were being given, let's say, for example, 20 acres, then you are given a plot. And the plot was for you to construct, and the land was purely for agricultural. So that is where we are going back, whereby we are able to demarcate very clearly this land is for construction, it is allowed to be constructed, but this land is purely for agriculture. And you find that in our country we have a very huge chunk of land which is arid. And that is why the president is talking about tree planting, because we want to get this land which is uninhabitable because of being arid. Nobody can farm and nobody can construct, but this is land that we can repossess by ensuring that we have enough rainfall, and we'll get enough rainfall by having trees that are planted. And for us to get the water, we need to have the dam, so that we can also move away from the rain-fed agriculture to the irrigation. Yep. So all these measures, at the end of the day, they are pointing to the same end goal. And the end goal is something that we as Kenyans, we supported, and that is Vision 2030. And this is something that actually started with the Kibaki administration, Vision 2030, and the big four agendas the Jubilee administration came up with was borrowed from Vision 2030. That we as a country, we want to be a self-reliant country, which is not borrowing so much, which is not it's self-sufficient. You understand? Yeah. So that is a goal that all of us we are driving, and all these agendas and all these things, they are towards that Vision 2030 that we have. Then from Vision 2030, still the country continues. We will come up with another vision, maybe 2050. We have said as a country by 2030, this is what we expect, and that is what now the government is trying to achieve. We are trying to achieve proper infrastructures. We are trying to have people housed in proper houses with all the sanitations, and when that happens, people also have peace of mind. There is that dignified living. People are able to be happy, and basically by so doing, we are creating a conducive environment for our country to be able to attract even foreign investors. And that is why also the issue of security is very paramount. And again, you know, insecurity comes with people not having jobs. So the issue of the young people having jobs is also very important. So all these things are geared to the same goal. As a country, we have that vision 2030. Yeah, but for us to get to that vision 2030, we have to come up with small measures which are understandable, because we can't say vision 2030, then we just sit and not do anything. Yeah, so basically it's about Vision 2030.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and the president has this very ambitious plan. He's calling it the rent-to-own plan, whereby you rent that house for a number of years.
Sure.
You pay the rent for a number of years, and then at a certain point it becomes yours. What can be done to cushion the people who are supposed to benefit from this program? Because we're talking about economic uncertainties. The rate of unemployment in this country is very high. A lot can happen within 20 years.
Sure.
What can be done to protect this person? Because I think we are targeting people who probably will afford around 2,000 shillings rent a month. So, and most of them are from the informal sector.
Sure.
What can be done to ensure that they are cushioned in case of any shocks on the economy?
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, what the president is doing is basically giving power to the majority of people, and the majority of people are the young people. They are the unemployed people. They are the people living in the slums. He's giving power and empowering the people who have always been disadvantaged. And he's setting a level playing ground whereby everybody is treated equally. You are not treated, you remember he was talking about the animal farm, whereby some animals are more equal than the others. So whatever he's just doing is laying a level playing ground whereby there is a rule of law, everybody is equal. You are not treated differently because you have money. You are treated equally, and somebody who has no money, or people who are saying they are young people, jobless, they are also given equal opportunities to be able to create wealth, and by so doing, everybody will contribute to the national kitty, and that is they will be able to pay their taxes, and by so doing our country will be able to be self-sufficient and self-reliant, and which is our vision 2030. And after vision 2030, we should come back and have a look at what we have done since we came up with the vision 2030. That was around I think 2002 or around there, sometimes back. These years, what have we achieved? What have we not? What can we learn from our past mistakes? Like for example, this government can learn examples very well from the previous administration. There was affordable housing, but there were no clear measures and ways of doing it. So now it can learn from that and come up with that. Again, it did not involve, let's say, for example, the private sector. And now we have had a mention of a public-private partnership. That is something that we are very keen to see whether we as the private sector, we are also going to be involved, because also in our experience we have learned one thing or another, and this is something that we can lay out to the government. And like we, Mizizi Africa Homes Limited, we have learned so many lessons, and we have seen the government picking some of them. And for example, that is the issue of zoning, and also encouraging even the counties to understand look at the bigger picture. We are creating jobs. Look at everybody, the issues of insecurity. People when they don't have jobs, and young people are so many. It also leads to insecurity, so that everybody now is able to look at these agendas from a broader perspective, so that there is no so much politicking, and there is no so much misunderstandings. We come together, all of us, we listen to our challenges, we listen to each other, then from there we move together, all of us as a country.
Well, and I want to engage you now as an industry expert. You're working in the private sector. The president, like we keep saying, has an ambitious plan. You've talked about the public-private partnerships.
Sure.
How is that structured? How does the government intend to work with you, now the experts in the private sector, to ensure that the dream is delivered?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you very much. At this stage, I believe we are still at the initial stage of coming up with the policies and coming up with the mechanisms. The cabinet was just formed the other day and so on the other day. So we still have time, because it is very new, but we believe that it is not going to take much time. As the president is saying, there is not so much time to be on the honeymoon. It is we kick the ground running, because the time is little, but the work ahead is so much. So we as private sector, we know that the government is also going to give us an opportunity, so that we can also air out our expectations. We also get to see how we can help, because we have learned so much, and not only on housing, and even basically on the other issues that the government is talking about, and the president in particular, for example, planting of trees, and something like bamboo. And bamboo is something that even the UN has recognized to be one way of eradicating poverty. These are lessons that we have learned, and we can also pass them over to the government. We have seen bamboo. It has over 2,600 species. So in our country, every area, there is a species that can do very well, even in arid and semi-arid areas. Those are things that we are encouraging, because we are not also looking at ourselves just as a business. We are looking at ourselves as Kenyans, and we are looking at ourselves as people who want to create a good conducive environment for our country, whereby when we are raising children, bottom line is for us to be able to raise children in a good environment, whereby everybody, even if you are going to school, you know at the end of the day you are going to school and you will be able to get a job. We are trying to not have people who are just thinking about themselves per se. Like we as a private sector doing housing, we do not want to think of ourselves as if we are operating in isolation. We are looking at ourselves also as people who are contributing to the better of the country. So it is high time that we do not now reduce ourselves to our private or personal cocoons, whereby you find previously people like, let's say the lawyers. The lawyers, they are looking at themselves as the learned friends. They feel their sector is very special. They do not want to interact with others. I'm not saying it was happening. I'm just giving as an example. Maybe the media personality, they feel this is our scope. Now we want to look at ourselves in the bigger picture. How are we contributing to the betterment of our country in whole? We do not reduce ourselves to only developers. So we as developers, we are very open-minded, for one, and we are ready to offer our experiences. And by so doing, also the government may come and tell us from your experiences and with your strengths in our private public partnership, we feel you can suit here and work here very well. Because at the end of the day, we are looking at a common goal, having a good country which is self-reliant, giving homes to people who need homes, and basically everybody needs a home. Even those who are maybe not well managed. Yeah, so we as private players, we are congratulating the government for whatever it is doing, and we believe if we continue supporting the government, and also it also continue clearly defining what its purpose or its planning to do towards now achieving the greater goal of Vision 2030, for sure that will be the way to go.
You talked about something very important about not working in isolation.
Sure.
Kenya can also, as a country, Kenya cannot operate as an island.
Sure.
We're talking about the global economic shocks.
Sure.
There are construction materials that we import.
Yeah.
And also we're talking about low-cost housing.
Sure.
How do we ensure that, yes, it's low-cost,
yeah,
but it's affordable?
Sure. Thank you very much. One thing that you will realize, for example, in our country, we are blessed, and Africa generally, we are blessed with the natural resources. And you will be surprised, actually, some of the limiting factors we have had, they were just mentored by the colonialists. For example, you find that we as Kenyans, we hardly trade with our neighbors because there have been set some boundaries and some strict rules which were there, which discouraged trade. And we are very happy because like our president is talking about free trade, and starting with Africa. We as Africans, we have been we have demarcated ourselves to stay as Kenyans, this country. But once we continue removing these barriers, these boundaries, starting from Africa, then also making sure that we are people who are living in peace, you will find that countries which are always in turmoil, it is not because they hate each other, but you find that people with interest, foreign countries, superpowers with interest in that country, and mostly it is to do with mining and getting the natural resources cheaply. They ensure that you are always in civil war, so that you do not have ample time to go to school. You do not have ample time to understand. So there are always conflicts because of the few resources, and you have so many natural resources which are so rich, but you are fighting over small things like water, like pasture, and by so doing, you find that people are coming and mining gold, coming and mining minerals in your country. They better themselves, and at your expense. But now you find that there's a wise saying that says mjinga akirevuka mwerevu ako mashakani. So now, even from now, with our president, we are now an enlightened country, and now we are taking our rightful position without any fear, without anybody trying to victimize us. We are standing firm. If we are Africans and we should do trade, we will be doing the trade. So now we can say mwerevu amerevuka. And the people now who are scared, you will find it is mostly the countries that wanted to really oppress us. You will find it is the very rich people who have always made use of the labor, cheap labor, and taking advantage of young people, taking advantage of the vulnerable. You will find those are the people who are will be crying a lot. But eventually, when now the dust settles, it will be a win-win for everybody, because we will have a fair country whereby everybody will be feeling as a person, and they will actually be in a position to even export labor. Yeah, Kenya, for one, we are blessed because we have very learned labor force which we can export, and those people start remitting back money in our country. And when they go there, they are also given the dignity that they deserve as Kenyans, because you find that some of our people who go to outside the countries, you have heard of people being mistreated as house help and such. Now we'll be exporting labor, and those people will be bringing their returns back in our country. And for example, as Mizizi Africa Homes Limited, and we really appreciate our diaspora customers who have been remitting money and buying houses. This is the example that we should also borrow, that they are East or West. They have realized East or West home is best, and they do not want to retire back in the foreign countries. So it is high time we also now start thinking about the future, our future after retirement, and we also think about the future of our children, our future generation. If we think futuristically, for sure we are going to be able even to overcome the small challenges of small differences that we may have as a people, and we'll be able to overcome so many challenges and achieve the big dreams that we have. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, George Mburu. I'm talking to George Mburu, who's the CEO of Mizizi Africa Homes. We're talking about Kenya's affordable housing dream. Remember, you can be part of this conversation. Twitters at TV47KE. My Twitter handle is at Eric_Mnene. Of course, you can text us on 22047. I have some questions here for George Mburu. Some people are asking very interesting questions. We'll come back with that in a few. Time now for a very, very short break. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
You are watching TV47. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
And music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
Waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening?
2,500. There's a place for you. If you're capable of paying 30,000, there's a place for you. If you're capable of paying 100, there's a place for you. We are dignifying everybody, not discriminating based on somebody's income. And what now that means is that we are giving people independence. And when people are given independence, with independence comes responsibility. And that is now when you'll find somebody is being told you need to pay 2,500 only, and you'll be able to get an affordable home. For that person, it is affordable because that is what they can be able to afford. Mm-hmm. And now the issue of that discipline or responsibility comes in. You have said you can afford 2,500. Now, do not also take advantage and say, because now you feel this house is worth maybe much more, now you need to sell and you get a higher price. It is, we are saying we are leveling the ground so that everybody with their capabilities, they're able to get something that is quality for a certain amount. So affordability is about quality and what you can be able to pay for. Not telling you to pay something which you cannot be able to. For you, it may be affordable for this person, but if you do not have that capability to pay, again it will be expensive. So we are talking about, we are looking at it based on people's capability, yeah, and yeah, basically that's it. But quality, it's not because you can only afford 2,500, then you are given an iron sheet house roof, like we have seen people in the slums, living, a whole family living in a single house. They are just separated by curtains. That is the kind of life we want to remove. And basically what the president is doing is now bringing that dignity to people and bringing the family fabric as it were, or as it was intended in the Bible, because people are intended to live with indignity, having a house whereby if it is a man and a woman, you're able to have your own bedroom. If it is you have water, you have electricity, dignified. It may be a simple life, but dignified. But if you have more, and you can be able to get more luxurious, there is also that opportunity whereby now you are able to live luxurious. Whatever now we are doing, we are encouraging actually even the banks to lend to people, because you find that for the common mwananchi, it has been very difficult, and the president has been saying this, to get credit. It has been a very big problem, even today for you. If you have a very small source of income, getting somebody to give you a loan, you find that it's very easy, and that's why you find the small loans. They are so, the interest rates are so high. But you find that somebody who has, let's say, several plots or several apartments, they use that apartment as a collateral. They are given money by the bank, which they pay very reduced interest. Then they give those houses to rent to people who are struggling. And so by so doing, they will be paying the loan for this rich person, yeah, by paying rent. you pay rent, but what happens, the landlord takes the money and takes it to pay the loan. So whatever is happening is that because you do not have the capability to go to be given the bank loan by the bank, because you can't qualify, you find now the rich always become richer and the poor becomes poor, and that is basically what you are trying to now remove. Yeah.
Well, I have a question here for you. Emmanuel Ochieng is asking a very interesting question, and it's tied to the first question I asked you about sustainability. He's asking, when everyone now owns a house, what happens to all these landlords we see in Kawangware and all those places?
Sure. Thank you very much. Whatever will happen to the landlords, there will be a level playing ground. And the president has said very clearly that moving forward, we will be taxing wealth. So the more wealthy you are, the more you're expected also to chip in. So there will be more people who are rich, there will be more people who are capable, and you will find especially people who are very vulnerable are people who are having first-timers. First-timers always are very vulnerable. First-time homeowners, first-time anything. So whatever we are doing, we are leveling the ground for the first-time people to have it easy, which has been very difficult. Even getting your first job, is very hard. Nobody is ready and willing to employ somebody who is green. But now we want to level that ground, whereby you have come out of school, you are given an opportunity, go and work, get that experience. Then the moment now all of us, we are in a position whereby we are capable. All of us, we are able to, because we are looking at Vision 2030, and we are saying we want to be self-sufficient, self-reliant. We are saying we do not want to rely on begging, we do not want to rely on handouts, we want to rely on ourselves so that we can have that dignity. For example, if you have bought your first house with your little money, I'm telling you the second house, it will be much, much easier because you have removed the burden of paying rent. And landlords have actually come up with their own laws, which actually will not be there in the national laws. Like for example, you have to pay rent by a certain date, let's say by 5th. If you do not pay that, every day there's an increase of 500. So you find that the poor, as we are saying, they continue being poor. So what will happen is there will be a level playing ground. So even those who are down, they will also be enabled to be wealth creators. And they also understand once you become wealthy, you have been given a great opportunity for you to create wealth. You're also expected to give back by paying taxes. And when that happens across board, those people, and everyday people are being born. So there is no any one time that there will be no need of houses, because each and every day people are being born, and we are talking about growing our children, raising our children in proper homes, giving them proper education, giving them equal opportunities, and basically that is the whole point. So we need to look at the bigger picture. We understand what the point is all about here, and the point is raising children. And as the president recently said, we want to be a country, or we want to be a parent that is in the Bible, which says a good parent leaves something for their children. So basically we want to have a future that is not coming in a debt-filled country. We want to leave a country which is better than we found it. And those people who are rich, actually, if they take advantage, they will continue being richer. And the poor will have an opportunity of being rich. But now it will be a problem, especially when you are rich and you tend to be resistant. Because, for example, there is the land rates which are being introduced. And those land rates, we will even render some landlords and some people who had money, who are not paying to the government anything, they continue being rich and the poor continue being poor. We are looking at a level playing ground whereby everybody can be rich. And if you are rich, you're expected to also chip in so that the future generation will find something, not cooking and eating everything. Yeah.
You've talked about first-time homeowners. I saw the president the other day scrapping stamp duty for first-time homeowners, which is about 4%, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Of the total cost of the project.
Yeah.
What else do you think, from where you sit, what else do you think should be done, the government should do?
Sure.
Dangle a carrot, a good carrot, to ensure that more and more people come out to, to become homeowners? What are the other things that the government can do and provide and promise Kenyans so that they encourage more and more people to own homes?
Sure. Yeah, that is one, and it's very commendable, removing the stamp duty for the first-time homeowners. The other issue we'll need to look at is the issue of cost of land, because we know that land in Kenya is based on willing seller, willing buyer. And there is no proper planning that we have zoned this land for agricultural, we need to do very proper zoning. And the land that is available for construction or for development needs not to be so expensive, because you find that land that is very near the infrastructure, roads, electricity, water, sewer line, tends to be so exorbitant. So you find a majority of people are not able to do it. And again, there is the issue of high-rise buildings, which have actually been done very well. This is something that is commendable, the high-rise building. It is something that the government is doing. We have seen the government, the houses there, high-rise, which means we are going to minimize on having so many houses all over. Yeah? The other thing that the government can do is encourage importation of machinery that is used in the manufacturing of fabricated precast stones. Because these machines, you find that importing them is they are taxed, and it's very highly taxed. But we have the natural resources, so you find that actually people come and get our natural resource, they go with it as raw material, then bring back it as a finished product and sell it at a very high price. And that is when you find there is no that balance. So what we can encourage, as opposed to people coming getting our raw materials, going processing and manufacturing end products, coming to sell to us at a very exorbitant prices, we want to encourage the government to support the manufacturing sector, especially manufacturing sector, manufacturing things that have to do with housing. Let's say steel we can get it from our ground, and be able to encourage the manufacturers. Cement, we get it from the ground, and we also have machines that make things like tiles, these fabricated stones. We try and minimize the cost of building as much as possible. The other thing, and the government has talked about, is having single licensing. We do not have so many for approvals. You get approval from here, then another one from here, then one from here. We get it from a common, because at the end of the day, the government is trying to get revenue. We try to minimize ways of getting revenue. We know at the end of the day, what we need is revenue. So whether it is the rates, because now there will be like the issue of rates. If it is rates, let it be across board. Everybody pay rates depending on the size of land you have. Everybody get that rates. If it's approvals, you are able to get those approvals easily and very fast. We make our work easier so that we have a good conducive environment, and we'll be surprised the money lying outside Kenya. Leave alone Kenya. Kenya at the moment you are crying so that there is no cash flow. But money that is lying in other countries, if we create a very conducive environment for our countries, even for foreign investors and people in the diaspora who have gone ahead and they are remitting back money at home, those are channels we can attract, even tourism, getting people to come and visit our country. We have all it takes. All it needs is the policies, and we clearly understand. Then also the government speaks clearly so that people understand, so that if there are queries or there are questions, those questions are asked from a point of information, so that again we do not have so much collusion, pull and push, so much conflict. Yeah, we want to make it faster, and if there is not so much friction, for sure they will move faster as a country and be able to recover the lost time, because we have lost a good time, good time learning the processes, learning. We have had those like the first-time homeowners. There was a bill that had been brought in Parliament so many years ago. It was put in the shelf, and so many other laws which had been put to the shelves. But now we can see them being brought. The thing is to involve everybody. Let's understand what are the benefits, what is this one going to help us with, so that again we minimize the issue of politics and negative energies. Yeah.
Well, Terence is saying a very good topic there you're discussing. Kindly ask him what the private sector is doing to ensure that even as we have more houses, we're not turning our urban centers to be concrete jungles. Will we have playing areas for our kids, etc., etc.?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you very much. And some of these things, they are there in the already in the bylaws of the counties, and these are things that need to be harmonized, so that when you are going, maybe let's say as a private developer, you are going to this county, you do not encounter different challenges. And these bylaws by the counties should be harmonized, so that if you are doing construction in this area, there should be things like green areas, so that again, we do not want to have concrete jungles, and we are also looking at attracting rainfall. So we can say this area, yes, you can do, but have a certain percentage left out for greenery, so that again we encourage. We are crying because of the weather. There is so much that deterioration of the weather. And there's no rain. So we also need to look at that. We need to have green areas, and again we also need to have places where children can be able to recreate, play with each other. Yeah, we need homes that are not only homes but also homely. Yeah, and having a homely place is whereby children are able to play, people are able to interact very well. So these are factors that also should be considered, especially by the county government, so that we also encourage greenery and all those amenities that are very necessary for upbringing of our children. Yeah.
Well, President Ruto's Grand Affordable Housing Plan targets 200,000 units yearly. This is Mary asking, is that really possible? That translates to about 500 houses in a day.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. It's not a small task. It's a big task, and it's a big goal. And what I would like even to encourage the government, for starters, let them start by demystifying Vision 2030, because that is where it all starts. Let them not come up with the policies and things, but people do not understand what for. Maybe somebody may feel this one, it is to enrich ABCD. Let's start by Vision 2030. Vision 2030 was brought in place by the former president, Moi Kibaki the late. And Vision 2030 is what Jubilee administration used to come up with its own first-term policies, of issues of schools, free education. Then there was the issue of digitalization, which is something that has taken shape very well. So whatever we are building on is on the foundation we started with the Moi Kibaki regime, and that is Vision 2030. But you find that a majority of us, we do not have that information, and we do not understand. Yes, we hear of Vision 2030, and the Vision 2030 basically covers everything, because Moi Kibaki, our former president, may he rest in peace, he came up with that Vision 2030. He used technocrats. The people who are sitting in those people are people who clearly understand. And we'll find that if everybody now understands the Vision 2030, and we even start now crafting Vision 2050, even in earnest, early enough, you will find that for sure everybody will be dancing to the same tune. We understand, why are we doing this? Why are we having this road here? Why is this parastatal giving this? Right? Because you find sometimes, especially people when they get into government, they feel this is our time to eat. As opposed to understanding the bigger picture, we have been given these duties because we have a certain goal as a country which we have set. So that's why you find that in the public offices, you find somebody gets in the office, they hang their coat, they go. They are just, they feel I have been employed, at the end of the month I will get my pay, without understanding what is the bigger picture as a country. So the first thing that I would like to encourage the current government is come out very clearly what is driving this, so that there's actually reduced tension and conflict. We are doing this because we want to achieve our Vision 2030. Already we are short of time, because we have lost so much time on the pilot stage, because the first stage is always the pilot.
Yeah.
And we have seen, for example, in the lands ministry, there was the issue of digitalization of titles. They started the pilot of Nairobi and its environs, the leasehold. How did it work? It's working very well. It's helping, and we have our big capitals. We have land, we have labor, we utilize all those whatever we have to look at our future. So if we start by educating people on the Vision 2030, then from there, once we get to Vision 2030, now we come up with another one. And that one, now people should be more involved. That one was drafted by the technocrats, and you find that there's a lot of maybe jargon there. People may not understand what is LAPSET, what is the blue economy, what is the what have you, all these things, because they are interlinked. And basically it is make our country the hub, the attraction hub of tourists, foreign investors, trade, all those things. Because again, when the government is doing things and people do not understand, definitely there will be a lot of resistance. So if we start by teaching Vision 2030, and that one also goes in our curriculum, our children, they need to understand why are we doing this, so that even as we come up, we know as a country, these are our expectations, these are our ambitions, this is what we expect, and by so doing there will be so much harmony, and the work will be easier for everybody. Yeah.
Well, we cannot talk about owning houses without talking about the access to credit. Sure. A lot of people probably fear that lenders have some hidden clauses in those contracts, and they fear taking up mortgages, thinking that maybe when things become rough for them financially, they might be auctioned. What do you think the lenders should do to be more open about the contracts, like you're saying?
Sure.
Access to information, demystifying some things. What do you think should be done to encourage more and more Kenyans to come up and take up mortgages?
Sure. Thank you very much. You'll find that a mortgage is a loan that is long term, and it has its terms and conditions. So what I can encourage is those terms and conditions, they are not so stringent, because, for example, you'll find that currently the current mortgages, you are given a loan which you will pay in 25 years, and you are buying a house worth this much. But you find if you do the costing, if the bank can come out very clearly, the banks now, it's high time they are transparent. You are given, there is that what you are given, what will be expected to pay. Because you find you are given a mortgage and you buy a house worth 5 million. That house worth 5 million, you are told you're expected to pay over the next 25 years. And there are interest and there are other fees that are there. If you do the calculation, in the 25 years, they have also factored the issue of inflation. They have looked at themselves fully, so that they ensure that the 5 million they have given you will also be worth the 5 million of that time. So they have factored inflation, because we know a shilling today is not a shilling of tomorrow. So you find that you are given a loan of, let's say, 5 million. By the time you are finishing, you have paid 15 million. You find that you have paid so much money, but the value, maybe now that time you have finished paying, and you are given that mortgage when you are a young person, let's say 20 years, or let's say 30 or 40. Now you have already gone to 60. If you decide to sell that house, already because of the depreciation of the house, the location, like for example, people who are getting mortgages in Buruburu years ago, I'll give an example, and they were being given 20 years. You'll find somebody still paying, but the value of the house in Buruburu, that time maybe it was 15 million, now you are expected to be even like 40 million. It has reduced. You can only sell at 10 million. It has diminished in value. So you find that what I can encourage, let these things be very clear so that people get to know what they're getting into. Then again, you find that you can be given the 25 years, but within 5 years, you are now stable. You are now in a position whereby you do not need to have this baggage, because a mortgage basically is like a long-term baggage which you are paying. So you can say, in 5 years, I now feel comfortable, let me clear this mortgage so that I move on. Now the house belongs to me. I can take this title, get a loan to do another one. We do not give people and our people, Kenyans, pain of paying something for eternity. So we also reduce. We can say, you can give us, for starters, a long period, or we give a good grace period. But somebody, once they have that home, they're able to have peace of mind. You can also increase in your speed. You do not say now, it's like you are tied to pay that mortgage to eternity. Clear it, now you are debt free. You have more peace of mind. You can use that collateral, that is a title, get now another personal loan which will take lesser time, you pay. Yeah, that's how we are going actually to move. We do not, it is something like good bad. It is good for somebody who is starting, but if you stay with it for so long, it becomes a burden and it becomes actually counterproductive. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, George Mburu, for that, for those comments and the insights.
Sure. Thank you. It was a pleasure. God bless.
Well, thank you. So that has been George Mburu, the CEO of Mizizi Homes Africa. We're talking about the affordable housing dream in the country. Of course, it's a dream of every Kenyan to own a house one day. And, well, the government has taken the lead in ensuring that that dream